Greetings and blessings, everyone. Everyone, give thanks for life and strength. Greetings and blessings and welcome to the Justice and Healing, Judgment and Heaping Nyabinghi initiative. This is the Justice and Healing Fora on Calabash TV live in St. Lucia, coming from the studios in St. Lucia. And we're just having a good time because very soon, very soon, we'll be unpacking major events relating to our Justice and Healing initiative. One of the main reasons why I came into St. Lucia, outside of just the healing I came personally for, we're here to present a whole package of activities dealing with the 130th year in the life of Emperor Haile Selassie I, how our people can use that to empower the next and the new, and certainly to bring for themselves, for I and myself, buying into our own justice, buying into our own healing, and therefore the redemption of our humanity. I'm in studio here with my beloved friend, sister, and co-worker in this vineyard, the beloved Tariro Mavundo. Blessed love, my dear sister. How you doing? How you doing?
Oh, I'm blessed. Blessed love to you all. Thank you for having me once again. I'm excited to unpack some really exciting programs that we have, and to delve more into the themes of justice and why healing, why Black people's healing is very important. And I love that you say buy-in. I think that's exactly spot on, because it's about economic, spiritual, cultural healing and justice. That starts within ourselves personally, and then it kind of filters out.
Yes, man, give thanks for why you stop talking. It's kind of nice to hear, even though the accent people want to label it, it's yours, Mm-hmm. So it's kind of nice to get another flavor in the conversation. So perhaps, beloved, there I could just block a sound on or talk on that space you come from and the necessity, even as I is focused here in St. Lucia, the necessity of our people, in the international spaces, how necessary it is for our people to buy into their own justice and healing.
Yes.
And then how, as Aina is even positioned here in St. Lucia, St. Lucia can stand tall in that space, leading the way through the vehicle of Rastafari.
Yeah, so my trajectory is that I come from Zimbabwe, and my parents moved from Zimbabwe when I was 5 to Australia. And so I've known two very different contexts, and having worked within, grown up within an Australian context, which is predominantly white, and seeing also how fraught that landscape is in terms of Indigenous justice, and what are ways to go there is for Aboriginal people in Australia to move towards sovereignty and liberation, made me start to think about, who am I? How am I located in this context, in this space? How am I an ally? How am I in solidarity to First Nations people, yet I came through colonial channels? And it made me really think about my blackness and my privilege as a Black settler, not from the lands that I was inhabiting. And so that led me to really want to be in a space that is Black majority, and to really unpack deeply what it means to come back to healing, and what justice actually means. And so here we are. This is how I've arrived in St. Lucia.
Well, beloved, let I man say, on behalf of the St. Lucian people, Welcome to St. Lucia, eh?
Give thanks.
Yes, man. So we're giving thanks for the opportunity, certainly, to do the work of justice and healing from in this space. And yeah, just welcome again. And so I know that there are initiatives coming forward. In fact, I'm intimately involved in the structures of those initiatives. But we have 28 days coming up in July. We're calling it the 28 Days Nyabinghi Initiative. And it dawned on I and I just recently that many ones don't even know what Nyabinghi represent, what Nyabinghi stand for, what is the history of Nyabinghi. And so you'll have young people talk about Nyabinghi, and them is Bingi, and them Bingi is associated with Rastafari. And it's kind of important for I and I really then to explain so that ones realize the grounding of Nyabinghi. But before we go into the grounding of Nyabinghi, I just wanted to share what the 28 days look like, starting from July 21st of this year. And the whole programmatic is to call for an end to all forms of oppression and injustices against African people and Rastafari people in particular, through the African drums, through the Nyabinghi. And that raises our first question. We'll go reason upon that, but that raises our first question. What is Nyabinghi? And so I'm going to alternate within the slides, yes? So that ones can see what comes. The theocratic reign of the order of Nyabinghi is a byproduct of Nyabinghi. The Nyabinghi and its origin, but most people are familiar with this kind of visual, yes, where they see Rastafari people on the drums, they hear Rastafari chanting the chants, but what is that history? Where is it stemming from? And how important is it within the African framing of our people? Overstanding then that it is not a religion, and it is not replacing people's religion, yes? But certainly it speaks to an African-centered spirituality, an African-centered response, if you will, to atrocities of the past, and certainly applicable in the present. So it's just a brief few lines on Nyabinghi, and then we can hold a little reasoning. If we can show this on the screen, my beloved producer, Nyabinghi is the oldest of the mansions of Rastafari. So we say mansions because come from a certain orientation historically where we talk about the mansions and the mansions in the kingman or the kingdom of the next and the new. Let us say in my father's house are many mansions. People overstand that kind of religious framing coming out of the Christian Bible, which many of I and I people use. And some people have faulted it, some people don't, but I use it as a good text, a historical text. What we don't need from it, we don't use. But in this context, the mansion of Rastafari, one of them is the Nyabinghi mansion. And all the other framings of Rastafari comes through that vehicle, through the Nyabinghi. Most people, they will tell you that they chant Nyabinghi. And that also is critical to understand why within the 28 days at Mount Kailash, we're going to be seated up, chanting Nyabinghi. And if you give me a minute, then you find that Nyabinghi is a chant for an end to oppression against our people, or death, which is a cessation, an ending to all forms of oppressions and all oppressors, and to equally pledge love to ourselves first, and love to all humans who do or aspire to do good. So the Rastaman order is a do-good order. And, I and I really just seek then to speak to that, the doing of good. But the framing, as I made mention earlier, really comes through a Ugandan queen, 19th century queen in the country now we know as Uganda, and that essential portion of our beloved continent. And she fought against the Portuguese. She fought against oppressors, standing for her people in that prism and overcoming many times. She was a thorn in their side. In fact, she was the bullet that stopped much of the occupation at that time. And she stood victorious to the point where they sought to co-opt her, yes, and to buy her out, if you will, so that she would, you know, allow for them to do what they wanted to do. But it's that energy and that spirit of Queen Nyabinghi that the Rastafari family uses in all the mansions to call for a death to the oppressive regimes that still dominate the reality of the African spaces and the reality of most people in the world.
And I also just wanted to speak to how rhythm and dance and sound are ways of protest, because it's directly connecting to something so ancient that no one can actually take away from us. I remember my parents talking about colonization directly influencing them, because they weren't able to speak their language, they weren't able to practice their customs, and even more so, more pronounced was my great-grandparents and my grandparents, but it's in our DNA and it's in our blueprint, it's in our very ways of being, like, and I think that's really powerful as the opening of the 28 days is actually opening up the body and opening up it's almost like a call to arms, if you will, or like this protest through song, through chant, through words. Yeah, it's really, really powerful.
Man, give thanks. And just to add to your sound, this is less of protest. This is a call to arms, but not in the way that most people see a call to arms, yes? It's part of the re-revolutionizing, so we say re-revolution, which is a re-re, but in reality, we're trying to bring our people to that space again of their own reality, their own spiritual reality, where the African drums and the intentionality of African people to free themselves, to emancipate themselves, will occur within that time and space. So we're coming with a particular intention, and we're coming with sound, and we're coming with the instrument of our ancestors, which are the drums, and we're going to call for our own justice.
I think that's what I mean by protest.
Give
it's
thanks.
like it's a personal protest against oppression by the returning really to ancestral ways of being, really. But through this modern framing, we're in the now, and we're calling forward the strength of our ancestors that really live inside of us.
Blessed love, yeah, man. And equally important too, I love it. And remember, I'm in studio, Calabash TV, yes, the Justice and Healing Sound, with our beloved Empress Tariro Mavundo. It's just such a beautiful sound that rolls off your tongue, you know. But it's equally important to recall that Nyabinghi is not new, and in fact, Rastafari people are continuously having Nyabinghi for the various holidays or Isla days that I and I celebrate. And historically, even in St. Lucia, as our beloved brothers in the Nyabinghi family, I met with them just yesterday, some within the leadership of the family. They reiterated that, you know, they've always been doing this. And so they asked the question, and I give an answer now, as to why it is important in this moment to have that call. And the importance is that it's the 13th decade that we're celebrating in the life of Emperor Haile Selassie I. This year, from 1892 to 2022, is 130 years, thereby 13 decades in the life of the man. And 13 is a powerful number in the African way of thinking and knowledge system that has been beaten out of us. We have been socialized to become fearful of 13. Friday the 13th, you see multiple movies they make about horrific European kind of things that makes us want to stay away from gravitating to our own knowledge systems and the basis of our spirituality. So even in the context of that, we're returning. And in the Ethiopian framing, Ethiopia has 13 months of sunshine,
That's right.
unlike that of the West. So, you know, it was found to be an important number, an important event, an important date. And also, because we're framing 28 days, and you can speak to some of this too, because you're intimately involved, we're having what? On August 1st, we're having our Emancipation Day celebrations. Now, we're not celebrating emancipation because someone say emancipated. We're going to use the time to really be reflective of what emancipation really means to free people. Not just free people, you say you're free and you can walk about, but your mind is free. As the Right Honorable Marcus Garvey says, that I and I must emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. Yes, Bob Marley placed that in song, and a lot of people credit Bob Marley for that, and we give thanks for the work of the Right Honorable Robert Nesta Marley. But certainly it is the words and word sounds of the Honorable Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey that reminded us that this is a responsibility we have, because no one else can free our minds except I and I. And by the way, on August 17th, for his 135th Earth Strong, we're having
Honorable Marcus Garvey's Earth Day celebration as well.
Yes, yes. And that will be part of what has historically happened within the Nyabinghi family. With the Nyabinghi family in St. Lucia will not only own that day, but they will present information, they will present a kind of marketplace, they will present the Nyabinghi itself to honor Honorable Marcus Garvey. And by the way, it's also 13 decades. It's 135 years, but it still is the 13th decade in his own life. So these are important dates, activities happening. Yes, just for the activities we also have on from the 2nd to the 4th, because as Emperor Haile Selassie I says, spiritual and material must go hand in hand. We must balance ourselves. So we're going to have an economic symposium that looks at maritime issues. How do I and I, as a people, free-thinking people, engage the issues of trade, even regionally?
Yes.
Because look at all these close communities that we have. Martinique is down the road, Antigua is down the road, Dominica is down the road. Yes, St. Martin is across the way, Barbados is across the way, Jamaica, all of these localities that are part and parcel of the regional family. Yet we have to go through different modalities to get food and services because other people occupy the seas.
Yes.
Well, it's time to us to go again to the black print of the Honorable Marcus Garvey and to re-engage the shipping mechanisms. And by the way, Raswin is no expert on shipping or maritime issues. But as I and I come together, as we bring families together, as we bring thinkers together, African thinkers, Caribbean thinkers, St. Lucian thinkers, people from across the region.
Different experts, different people with different specializations. There will be people who are specialized in maritime and trading, who will then offer more in-depth, practical, logistical ways that we can go about actually advancing Honorable Marcus Garvey's proposal that black people can be part of the global trading system. Yeah. Yes,
beloved. Rightly so. And it will be done. Because if it is to be, it is up to I and I. Take a little break and come forward and unpack some of this and reason some more upon this. See? Blessed love family, Rastafari.
Electricity powers our favorite appliances and devices. But leaving your devices on or even plugged in when not in use can waste energy. Wasted energy that runs up your bill. When not in use, switch off, unplug, save energy and save your appliances and devices. It's the smart thing to do. Saving energy is what's smart.
In the event of a disaster, you have thought about emergency exits for your company staff and visitors. But do you check them regularly? Is your company really prepared for a disaster? Download your checklist at caribbeanchambers.net.
My name is Alicia Hippolyte, and I attend the Center for Adolescent Renewal and Educational Center, CARE. And today we are displaying our aquaponic presentation, the mini version. Basically, aquaponic means farming using fishes, where we have tilapia in a tank or in a pond, and we feed them at least twice or 3 times a day. And when they defecate, we use that for a filter system, and we use the bacteria from the filter to basically fertilize the plants, and that same water passes to the cycle again to water the plants, so you don't have to get up or water your plants every day. It does everything in one. So today we have celery and string onions, but you can also grow cabbage, cucumber and lettuce, and it takes at least 6 weeks to grow, and the fish takes 9 months to fully develop, and when it's fully developed it weighs at least 4 pounds or 1.5 pounds, it depends. Yes, we sell to the village of Ancillary. We also sell to the schools in Ancillary, and our main goal is to encourage farmers to farm without using any chemicals. They can get in touch with our school at the K Ancillary or dial the number 720-1536.
Yes, greetings again and welcome to the Justice and Healing Forum, live on Calabash TV here in St. Lucia. I am Dr. Wayne Rose, along with my beloved co-host, guest, co-worker, Empress Tariro Mavundo.
Blessed love.
Give thanks, beloved. Yeah, man, I and I were talking about the 28 days of events that are planned for St. Lucia. I told you from the very beginning, about 7 months ago, that St. Lucia is the spot where a catalyst can be provided from this space, where we influence our family here in the Caribbean. Because Jamaica, great island, great place. I come from that place. Trinidad, great place, great island. Beautiful people come from there. On every region we could identify, Guyana, Antigua,
Dominican,
beautiful people.
yeah.
But in terms of what is happening for a focus on the 130th, the celebrations, a call for justice and healing, it occurred here. Yes? And they say it's the Helen of the region, but let us really frame it. It's Lucy. Lucy representing Lucia or Lucia. And Lucy, in the context of those people who went into Ethiopia, the Rift Valley, and what they said they found there in the 1970s, the remains of the first human being. And they said her remains, the mitochondrial DNA from her connects all humanity.
That's right.
And so we're saying Lucia or Lucia is a powerful representation of the human family, and perhaps can connect all of us within the region and the human family to the framing of justice, to the framing of healing, personal and communal, family and communal healing. And so I is gathered here, but we know other people are gathered all over the world, all over the spaces, Caribbean and North America and Europe and perhaps Australia. But I people are gathered all over the place. Yes, to celebrate. Next month, the people will be celebrating the 130th year in the life of Haile Selassie I. First, I want to give a shout out to the Idor family and the various Nyabinghi families across the world, the Bobo Shanti family, the 12 Tribes of Israel family, the Non-Aligned, the Ethiopian World Federation, all of our Rastafari and Pan-African families who know the importance of reconnecting with our history, our family, our life, our own framings of goodness. So within that connection, we're bringing in some students also, because what Rastafari did over 17 months ago, Rastafari decided to no longer have their brains picked by philosophers and PhDs, etc. Because Rastafari have its own PhDs and philosophers and scientists and others. Yes, and so we established a School of Sacrament, Rastafari University. And through that School of Sacrament, I and I are bringing students from the John Hopkins University right here, along with some of their professors. Yes, coming right here, Dr. Robbie Shilliam, Sister Kali Ahmet, and others are coming in, and students coming in to St. Lucia to have the experience of the Justice and Healing Initiative. So St. Lucia has been a focal point of work, and certainly what I and I expect will happen from that is Rasween will get a personal healing, our families will get its justice, and then we can re-engage and engage the next and the new. Yes? So we engage ourselves within the next and the new. But what else do I and I have coming forward, beloved sis?
Yeah, we also have a premiere of a short film documentary that is really celebrating and giving thanks to victors who were, I guess, victims of statewide violence perpetrated against Rastafari and Indigenous people. And really it's to share with St. Lucians and the region as well as across the globe the injustices that went on and are still ongoing, and to make amends and to have open relationships with governments today and say, how can we move forward? What is the justice that needs to happen for healing to then occur? And so we have elders like Mama Lavi who are speaking to their direct experience of those atrocities, and it's a very, very powerful documentary, and we have a few screenings, so it won't only be screened once, it'll happen multiple times to make sure that as many people come and see it, and celebrate our now ancestors, some Rastafari who didn't, who have transitioned and maybe won't be seeing the next phase that we are now co-creating.
Give thanks, beloved. And just to remind ones that our ancestors still remain with us. Visually, physically, they might not be here, as Empress Tariro said, but you know, I and I really will bring forward that work and have that memory of them. And through our own work, we will celebrate their lives and their contributions to the next and the new. And certainly, as you correctly said, I wanted just once to know that though this documentary is from the Jaja and I initiative through the Ubuntu Rastafari Cultural Center, we're also sharing it with the St. Lucian family through a collaboration with the Cultural Development Foundation operated through the Ministry of Tourism. And we want to make ones know that although I and I will have our own screening based on our own programmatic, we're also going to bring it within the Cultural Development Center here in St. Lucia, so one can come and see, and then we can have a conversation with people who went through the fire, went through the tribulation of state-sanctioned violence, and can stand today victorious and to look the victimizers in the eye and say, I didn't bow, but I stand tall in the new and the now, as we move our agenda towards healing. So we're going to sweep things from under the rug and talk with some clarity, and to share with the family those truths that must be shared so that I and I can really heal. It's no longer time for sweeping these type of things under the rug. This is the Justice and Healing Forum, and for healing to take place, sometimes you really have to just rip the bandage off and talk truthfully. But what other things are happening from the Ubuntu Rastafari Cultural Center in the month of August?
Yeah, we'll also be hosting a poetry slam competition, and so that's open to any St. Lucians. And the theme will be specifically targeting emancipation, and so really unpacking what does emancipation look like to each of us, and hearing the poets and their perspectives and their framing of emancipation. I mean, you look at slavery in the past, and then you go, is it repackaged because the prisons are full of black people? So really, have we, even from a physical chained point of view, have we really come out of slavery in its physical form? Mental slavery, yes. Spiritual slavery, yes. Like, how are we emancipating ourselves? So I think it's a really broad topic that can be really personalized. So it's going to be a very, very interesting poetry slam that will happen in August, and it'll be on a Thursday from 6 to 8. So we welcome you to join us either as participants or as audience, just to soak in and to really take in what people are saying, and in a poetic and creative form, and really then encouraging audiences to reflect on what emancipation means for them. And really the idea is to continue the conversation forward, so it doesn't stop on stage, it doesn't stop in the Ubuntu Cultural Centre stage. It actually continues on having conversations with parents and with friends and with family, just to continue that ongoing unpacking. I think is really important for us to get to that point of healing.
Of course, beloved, give thanks. And just as a reminder to especially our local family here, that every other Thursday, starting with Thursday of next strong.
This Thursday, yes.
This Thursday. So we gather at the Ubuntu Rastafari Cultural Centre, and there we will have our poetry slam, the first leg of the June month poetry slam, and then we move.
No.
It's next Thursday.
Yes, I thought you were talking about what I will talk about next.
Give thanks. No. So it's yes, the poetry slam every other Thursday. So next Thursday, I will gather at the Ubuntu Rastafari Cultural Centre for the first leg of the July competition.
That's right.
And then 2 Thursdays from there, we'll have the final. But this has been ongoing since February. And again, I want to salute the Ministry of Tourism and its buy into the mission and the message that is brought from the Ubuntu Rastafari Cultural Centre. Ubuntu representing I am, because you are, and because you are, therefore I am, which in essence is what Rastafari say every day. I and I. I in the I in I, Jah in I. The Almighty from within, and within each of all of I and I. So we give thanks for that, and we really want ones locally to understand that you're welcome. Don't feel timid. Come with your thoughts, come with your energies, and engage with I and I. Just on the poetry piece, just as a final piece, during the month of the Emancipation Month, I and I is also going to bring to the grand stage in the Cultural Centre, the local cultural center, not the Ubuntu Rastafari Cultural Center, but the cultural center that is here in Castries. We will have our competition launched there, so that larger numbers can come forward and participate. By the way, if you have seen that video, the Emancipation video, celebrating Emancipation Month, it's the first time in St. Lucia that the whole month of August is being celebrated. And there's a poet on it, Sister Kishma, who comes through the Ubuntu Rastafari Cultural Centre. She's our May winner, and she just won the first leg of the June competition, yes?
Yes, that's correct.
She just won the June competition.
She won the June competition, and she's just won the 1st July.
We're not in the 1st July yet, but it's good. That is how advanced we're trying to advance the thing, because we can't wait. I cannot wait for our own 28 days.
Yes, she's won the 1st June competition. Yes, the 1st June slam.
So yeah, I is really wants to understand that this is an ongoing and escalating energy where young people can come into the center, they can express themselves, and they actually get a national platform. The sister is now a national focal point. And as I said, August, for the first time in St. Lucia, an entire month of emancipation is being celebrated. And I just love to believe that the Ubuntu Rastafari Cultural Center had something significant to do with that, even just by being. But other good people have been working very hard. Hats off to our beloved sister Junia Frederick, among many others, Brother Tyrone and others who work tirelessly to make these programs come to fore. So blessings and love. So,
I also
yes.
wanted to announce excitingly that this Thursday we're going to launch at the Ubuntu Cultural Center our book club, and that's open to anybody, any St. Lucians, and it's at the same time as the Poetry Slam would be, so it's 6 to 8 bi-monthly. So whenever the Poetry Slam is not happening, the book club is happening. And this is really an opportunity for book lovers, especially who are interested in African-centric narratives, to get together, to connect, and to really unpack in a deep way some of the themes that authors are delving into. And I'm not going to reveal who our first author is. That's going to be a surprise. So yeah, we welcome you to the Ubuntu Rastafari Cultural Center this Thursday. And it'll be more of an introduction to what the book club is about. And it's a collective, right? So it's really to set the tone and to hear what from others, from participants, what they would like the book club to look like. So we kind of co-create it together. And it's called the Royal Readers. So if you want to get in touch with your royalness, and your ascendancy, yes, please come this Thursday. All are welcome.
Blessed love, give thanks. What a joy to just know how things have escalated and magnified itself. And you know, I also just want, because sometimes we get a little estranged from our families when we travel and we don't keep in touch, and you know, people doing what they're doing and healing and all different kind of things. But I want to salute a few important people. Our beloved Empress Waleti, Dr. Dina Marie Beresford, in the IDOR, Universal Development of Rastafari Family, because IDOR has been critical in even my own work and my own mission, but she's critical because she assisted with sending the first batch of books. She was with the Frontline Trading Post in Maryland, and she literally unpacked her books so that I and I could bring them forward into St. Lucia. And by extension, our honorable brother Raseko Tafari he HQs in Chicago. And he is Frontline, and he also sent in many, many books so that we could have them. And our beloved brother Nati in Baltimore, where he has African World Books. We got a lot of our books from them. And then we have a special collections, which is my own 30-year collection of books that we brought forward, and I brought forward, so that family could join the book club, join the cultural center, and have an opportunity to come forward now and sit down and read in the cultural center by being a member, subscriber of our book club, and benefit from, you know, books for research, books on health, books on African spirituality, books on African politics and sociology, books on herbs. Remember, we have the Honorable Priest Kailash and his sold out book. We're hoping that we'll get some of those back forward into the center. But these are the things that I and I are really intentionally doing. But all of it, family, Empress Mavundu, all of it is framed within the Justice and Healing, Judgment and Heaping Nyabinghi initiative, which will take place at the Mount Kailash Rejuvenation Center. It starts there on July 21st, where we'll have a welcoming session And then we go right into Isis from the Friday evening with our Baba Shanti family. The sabbatical on the 23rd is resumed by the Nyabinghi family. And those who want to come and chant for their own liberation, they'll have that opportunity. But until then, I was going to take a small break and we'll come forward and look at some of the local issues affecting our family here in St. Lucia. Blessed love. Give thanks.
My name is Cornelius Gideon, lecturer at Southwest Community College, Engineering Department. All right, so what we have on display is pretty much a wiring board that displays every single sensor, every single electrical component of any given motor vehicle. And what do? We actually teach the students how to go about solving problems, how to go about repairing those electrical components that persons find hard to repair. What we have at the college, we have what we call short courses that run for a period of 6 weeks, and we ask persons in the industry to come in. Come and get recertified. Come and learn new technology. Come and interact with us so we can actually show you the best way forward. And if persons actually jump on that opportunity, it's something that we can see in the long run benefiting the country. Before, vehicles of long ago and vehicles of now are two different classes of vehicles. You understand? Even though the concept remains the same, but electronics now has infiltrated the automotive industry. And as a result, persons now have to get recertified in that. So we're asking all the mechanics out there to come in, do an add-on course with us, where you can do motor vehicle electronics, you can do motor vehicle air condition repair, you can do engine repair, you can do transmission repair by itself. So we actually tailor those courses to suit the public. At the Southwest Community College, the number is 4577-300. Contact Lifelong Learning if you want to know any add-on courses. As a professional, my number is 716-2960. If you have any queries, anything I can assist you with, not a problem.
In the event of a disaster, you have thought about appointing staff members to execute key activities. But have you considered that they may be on leave at that time? Is your company really prepared for a disaster? Find out more by downloading the checklist at caribbeanchambers.net.
Give I the teachings of His Majesty, 'cause we no want no devil philosophy. Hey, give I the teachings of His Majesty, 'cause we no feel it till the one drop. Hey, it's the teachings of His Majesty time, you know. And so within the Justice and Healing Forum, I know the things that have made I strong, morally strong, physically strong, emotionally strong, mentally strong. It is the words of our greatest ancestors, our greatest fathers and mothers who have set examples for us. And so, yeah, this is a time when we block on the teachings of His Majesty. And I just want to bring just 3 segments because we're in a very spiritual and religious focused space. You know, there's a lot of churches in St. Lucia and our people are very churchical. And so while we could come with some criticisms about churches and what they mean in the today reality, we're going to just share something about religion and spirituality as His Majesty did. Yes? He said, in the mystic traditions of the different religions, yes, meaning in the things that people call very sacred and you don't know about and it's kind of taboo to talk in public and it's hidden, in the mystic traditions of the different religions, we have a remarkable unity of spirit, meaning all of us have some similar things. All of us are united within the spiritual realm. Whatever religion these religious groups may profess, all are spiritual kinsmen. We related. These things are relatable. While the different religions in their historic forms, I mean Islam, Christianity, etc., binds us to limited groups. So while in their historic forms, people are bounded to specific and limited groups, And those groups militate against the development of loyalty to the world community. Meaning, you see how much fractionalization, we have people fractured here, you have religious wars and people criticizing one religion, etc. That is what has happened based on the historic forum through which these have developed. But Haile Selassie I says, the ancients of old, the people who knew, the people who overstand, the people who still stand as the vanguards for humanity, which the Rastaman is part of that. The mystics have already stood for the fellowship of humanity in harmony with the spirit of the mystics of ages gone by. Overstand that, in a sister, Mavundu. The mystics of today, who is the Rastaman that many people want to reject, stand with the mystics of the past, recognizing the fellowship of humanity.
Yes.
And the harmony that humanity must possess in order to heal itself.
And I think Emperor Haile Selassie really, I mean, he spoke to this perfectly in terms of equality. Like, for us to be fully human and come to the table equally, we have to all, in terms of race as groups, get to a similar place. And I think we cannot have that. We cannot have healing and true equality if we're not somehow in similar economic, social, political positions of power. And I think really the Justice and Healing Initiative, Nyabinghi initiative, is moving forward towards making that a reality.
Absolutely. And importantly, and to reiterate, we're not in the religious space. We're not claiming religion. We respect people who do, because people have to have a forum through which they express their spirituality. Yes, but we're saying we stand for the humanity, the fellowship, the unity, and the oneness of our humanity. So we find the common things that makes us move forward, and not the things that divides us. Give thanks. So further, just to share, because it's the teachings of His Majesty time, since no one can interfere in the realm of the Almighty, His Majesty Haile Selassie I says we should tolerate and live side by side with those of other faiths.
Yes.
He says in the mystic traditions of the different religion, again, is the same thing, we have remarkable fellowship. Yes? Yes, and he says the fellowship of this humanity is in harmony with the spirit of the mystics gone by. And no one should question then the faith of others, for no human can judge the way of I and I. Yes, because we are socialized, we have developed in different spaces, and we connect to God through the prisms of our own experiences. What we call for, though, in the Justice and Healing is an end to the infringement on the African mind through imagery and the mockery of our own spirituality, the undermining of our own spiritual icons and our own gods and icons of faith. That people want to ridicule and make it seem as if we have no framework for God and that we must follow someone else's framework. That is where His Majesty says, in the final piece here, it says the temple of the Most High begins with the human body, which houses our being, our life, the essence of our existence. He says Africans are in bondage, everywhere we are now as African people, and are in bondage today because they approach spirituality through the religion provided by foreign invaders and conquerors. These are the words of His Majesty. He says we must stop confusing religion and spirituality. Religion is a set of rules, regulations, and rituals created by humans. Again, is man create the Catholic Church, man create the Anglican Church, man create the Rastafari movement through the vehicle of a man who's pre-coronation name is Rastafari. So we must move away from all of that if we're going to bring together ourselves in a space of oneness. But we must use the vehicle, Rastafari included, to bring the human family together. That is what the Justice and Healing Initiative is about. So in finishing, he says we must stop confusing religion and spirituality. Religion is a set of rules, regulations, and rituals created by humans, which was supposed to help people grow spiritually. Due to human imperfection, religion has become corrupt, political, and divisive, and a tool for power struggle. Haile Selassie I says spirituality is not theology or ideology. It is simply a way of life, pure and original as was given by the Most High of creation. He says spirituality is a network linking us, to the Most High, to the universe, and linking Ras Wayne to Empress Tariro Mavundu, linking us then together, all people together. That is what spirituality does. These are the words of Kadamawi Haile Selassie I. As I say, give I the teachings of His Majesty. Yes, indeed. So, moving from that, it helps us then to understand where we're really positioning ourselves in terms of the next 28 days starting July 21st through August 17th. The framework is non-religious. The framework is goodness. Recording on the good young people, the good middle-aged people, the good older people. Yes? From across the spectrum of St. Lucia, from across the region, certainly, we have good family from all over who are coming in, from Jamaica, from Antigua, from Trinidad, from Guyana, from Guadeloupe, from Martinique, from St. Martin, from Dominica. We have, and from the North America, we have people coming from Europe. The family is coming together. And we're not saying family with just dreadlocks. We're saying family who don't sometimes look like Ras Wayne and you don't expect them to. But they're coming in for justice and healing. And we're going to chant an end to oppression, which is Nyabinghi, in the mountains of St. Lucia, the mountains of Mount Kailash, at the MKRC, or Mount Kailash Rejuvenation Center.
That's right. It's calling and appealing to all of our goodness, no matter who you are. It's like if you want to lead with goodness as a kind human being, then this is for you. The 28 days is for you. And I guess it's important to provide context, like why is it very important right now in St. Lucia to be involved in a 28-day Nyabinghi justice and healing program, is because of some of the issues and challenges I think young people are facing right now today that are permeating and pervasive, and also potentially destructive in terms of the trajectories that young people are going on.
Yes, it really comes, and I'm glad you segued into that. We're going to touch a little bit on what Honorable Marcus Garvey said about our unity as African people. But, you know, we did a brief survey with young people in St. Lucia. And one of the things they're saying is that there are just very limited options. And where there are options, the information is not reaching the people who need it the most. And so, you know, you need to have, for instance, credible community advocates and activists who can go into the nook and cranny, the communities where you have the youth, the very nice youth, the very good youth, But they don't see people saying, well, here is an option for you, your sister, your brother, your cousin, your uncle, where you can lift yourself up. Here are some economic opportunities. It's not reaching them. So you need to start bridging that gulf, because what is appealing to the young people are options that people know. Yeah, you talk about gang options, and I don't really have a problem with gangs. Gangs are supposed to be protective spaces where people can feel comfortable. So a gang is now in the contemporary use of gang where you see people trying to distance themselves. But when you had your gang is your tribe, is your group, is where you socialize and you feel most comfortable. What has happened within the political sense of the Caribbean and North America and Europe,
and Australia probably,
of course, is that gangs now have been given a particular energy to be destructive, to be the antithesis of the police, to be the antithesis of those who are, and when we say antithesis, we mean the opposite of. Yes? The people who are supposed to be holding justice. But most of the brothers and sisters that I know in St. Lucia who are quote-unquote gang members, they are good people. All they want is for once to be reaching them in a meaningful way, to have conversations with them, to tell them about economic opportunities and the practical ways that they can lift up themselves. Because what does a young person want? What do you want as a young woman?
Well, I mean, I can speak directly to the work I was doing in Australia, because actually working with young people who were part of gangs, what they were saying they wanted was a place where they felt valued, a place where they felt like they belonged, and they wanted to make money quickly. And so gangs, in terms of dealing drugs, became sort of a quick way to make money, particularly to young people who felt quite disenfranchised and oppressed by the system and were told they were nothing, suddenly felt like they could be somebody. And I guess in the kind of work I was doing, we were kind of saying that's a way, but there's also this way and this way and this way and this way of economic sustainability. There's this way of actually uplifting yourself and making yourself feel valuable. There's actually a myriad of pathways that you can engage in that doesn't have you constantly in fear, that doesn't have you constantly going in and out of jail. And also, yeah, I agree. I think in terms of how negative gangs have been made by the media and by government is really problematic, because in Australia, they started to label gangs specifically. They started to make up this name, and then they would call South Sudanese young people, any South Sudanese young people that was walking in the street, they would call them this particular gangs. And so it was a massive issue, because you'd have people in Australia walking down the street, and a South Sudanese person would pass by and they would like literally clutch at their purse, or some person mistook me for South Sudanese and said, "Oh, you're part of that gang." And it was this whole propaganda and this whole mythology just so there can be a bad and a good. So I'm really...
We're getting rid of that. It's just good.
Yes.
And the do-good order of Rastafari through Nyabinghi and through the framing of goodness. But give thanks for that attribution, that contribution, my beloved sister, because I now have a plan. And I want to salute our beloved sister Betty Jean, who came in studio, worked with us, continue to work with us in bringing sisters and other community members to say Ubuntu Rastafari Cultural Center can be a space where you're engaged for a solution. And so we're working through solutions with the family right here in St. Lucia. And we want to present some of those solutions to the right people in government who, I mean, are good people. And if you go good, the expectation is that they will be receptive to the solutions that are brought to them through the framework of other good people, including I and I at Ubuntu Rastafari Cultural Center, to say, here are some plans and proposals, and I will come with you in communities to work with the people who need the work, to bring them in a new space of economic empowerment, of justice, and of healing. And as time is now on I just want to seal with something which is most critical. Because as we talk about justice and healing and coming together, the forces that seek to divide us are at work. They've been at work from the time of the Honorable Marcus Garvey. And so I seal with the words that he gave us as reminders. Reminders from the Right Honorable Marcus Garvey. He says, "It is said to be a hard and difficult task to organize and keep together large numbers of black people for the common good. There it said Negro race, but we stop using Negro as a term for a little bit now. Right? He says, many have tried to bring us together or congregate us, but have failed. He says, the reason being that our characteristics are such as to keep us more apart than together. And especially the characteristics of some of our leaders. They want division so that they can stand in opposition of the good and to just be a voice and be a focal point. Honorable Marcus Garvey said, the evil of internal division is wrecking our existence as a people. And if we do not seriously and quickly move in the direction of a readjustment, it simply means that our doom becomes imminently conclusive. It means that we're never going to recover. But with the Justice and Healing Forum, I expect, my honorable family, that when we come together, when we chant Nyabinghi, when we call on the ancestors and the Almighty for our restorative justice, for our healing, it shall be done. And I say, Ashe, Ashe.
Ashe.
Blessed love family, this is the Justice and Healing Forum. See you again next strong, We're coming to you again and again. Ubuntu, Rastafari, love and honor. Give thanks, Empress Tariro.
Give
blessed
thanks,
love.
blessed love. I think, therefore I am. No, I am because you are.
Rastafari, give thanks.